Is it reasonable for me, 33M, to end relationship with GF, 29F, over her period? Been together 5+ years. We're in our 30s. She's very kind and sweet. But every month for a week, sometimes 10+ days, her personality and demeanor will flip and become very sour. I understand that this time of the month for women is challenging, and I try to be as patient and understanding as possible. But it is putting a big strain on our relationship. She becomes very angry, irritable, unreasonable, sour, uncaring, cold. Everything I say turns into an argument. She has little patience and I basically become the enemy. She will disagree with everything I say. That's fine. People can disagree on things. But it seems like no matter what I say, she'll be against it. I try to stay positive. But she looks at me with disdain, and it has gotten to a point where I literally just have to completely leave her alone during this time because of how much strain it puts on the relationship and both our feelings. It feels like an extremely unstable and bipolar relationship. But now, once the 10 days of difficulty are over, it's becoming impossible for me to snap back into being a happy person or us both getting along with each other, since the damage is done, in terms of 10+ days of negative energy, arguments and bitterness. I feel like the rest of the month can't be enjoyable for us because I'm just dreading the Jekyll and Hyde switch that's inevitably coming. The resentment has been accumulating over these periods of time, that during the rest of the month I feel almost traumatized, anxious and overall unhappy. Even though she may be feeling more of herself and upbeat, I just can't match it because I'm hurt and upset over the 10 days of negativity. I can't swing back and forward. I struggle to be happy if I have been sad and anxious for 10 days. I struggle with depression, depersonalization, derealization disorder, and these 10+ days of us not getting along triggers it. But now it's gotten to a point where the depression and doctor persists after the 10+ days. And by the time I feel like I'm feeling a bit better and upbeat, Hyde is back and I begin to shell up again. I know that it's not her fault. It's all hormonal, but the consequences of the hormonal changes, behavioral changes, is making me very unhappy. I feel like making this post will be extremely unpopular, and that if I mention this here or to her, that I'm an intolerable toxic male. I know the trope of men being ignorant to female periods, but I really try to be understanding. I won't ever mention her period IRL, but it's at the point where it's impossible to ignore. Thank you for reading. She may want to seek medical attention and talk to her doctor about this. It seems much more extreme than normal, and often this can be fixed. As a woman, I can confirm that while periods and hormones suck, this isn't normal at all. She shouldn't be reaching these aggressive emotional extremes and should probably see a doctor. Look up PMDD. My wife has it, and before she was diagnosed and meditated for it. It sounds very similar to what you're describing. Has she ever discussed her behavior during periods with her gyno? If she behaves like this in general, have her friends, relatives never addressed it? I know that it's not her fault. It's all hormonal, but the consequences of the hormonal changes, behavioral changes, is making me very unhappy. TBH. It's crazy that you haven't voiced how unhappy you are for such a long time. Dude, when she's off her period, you need to tell her that your relationship might end if she doesn't get help. I know someone exactly like this, and she needed to do 3 things before she saw improvement: therapy, medication for depression, and she got on a birth control that helped level that out. Best of luck to you. No one should call you unreasonable for wanting to end your relationship over this if it's affecting both you and your relationship negatively. That being said, has she gone to her GP about these extreme mood swings during her period? Has she ever seen a professional about it? This sounds like PMDD. I have this and it can make me extremely mean, very depressed, and even suicidal. Iron supplements help. Magnesium supplements help. Hydration helps. But what helps me the most is birth control that eliminates my periods entirely. Your GF should talk to a doctor, preferably a gynecologist or other reproductive specialist if she won't seek treatment. Then leaving to protect your own health and sanity is certainly not unreasonable. Most of the comments mention PMDD, and I want to agree with that as a possible cause. Usually treated with either antidepressants or antipsychotics. However, there could be other endocrine issues at hand as well. I'd encourage reaching out to all of the following: a therapist, her GP, and her OB/GYN. If possible, I'd also recommend an appointment with an endocrinologist. I'd also recommend you reach out for therapy as well, as this can be damaging and potentially traumatizing to you as well. It sounds like she might have PMDD. Have you talked to her about it when she's normal? Is she aware of how bad she gets? I had PMDD for a while and I knew I was being awful, but I couldn't stop it. All I could do was warn my family I was in a mood and might lash out, but that I didn't mean it. But not everyone has that self-awareness in those moments. There are things that can help if it is PMDD. She should talk to a drive. I also think you would benefit from being more accepting and compassionate for your own emotions. You obviously care about your girlfriend. Don't label yourself negatively and call yourself toxic. Accept and manage your emotions properly. Well, first of all, you have every right to end the relationship for whatever reason if you're unhappy. So there's that. But also, this doesn't sound like normal behavior. I'm wondering if she has some sort of health problem or her hormones are dysregulated in some way. Because periods shouldn't last for 10 days for one thing. And any emotional volatility due to different hormone levels during shouldn't last for that long either. Me personally, I usually get weepy a few days before my period starts. Maybe a bit irritable on the first day, but nothing more. Does she have mental health problems that you know of? Have you ever talked to her about this? If you haven't, you should, especially now that you're considering breaking up. You don't even have to explicitly mention anything about her period. Just say something about how her behavior a third of the time is unacceptable and you can't deal with it anymore unless she tries to make some effort, change. I also have PMDD. And had the same symptoms. Picking fights over the smallest things. Irritability. I felt so guilty about it since I didn't understand why I became a snarling dog right before my period when I'm generally a very nice and considerate person. I got a better doctor with whom I actually could talk to and felt comfortable going on an SSRI. Paroxetine, Paxil, which is shown to be efficacious for a variety of things including PMDD. This is a medical problem that requires treatment. Menstruating sucks, but it's not an excuse to act like a complete asshole to the people around you. If her symptoms are that bad, she needs to see a doctor. It sounds like you are being traumatized and abused. I imagine what you are going through is what abused women feel. Waiting for the shoe to drop and not trusting that good times, knowing that something bad is right around the corner. This doesn't sound healthy, and you need to respect yourself to know that you deserve better treatment. Sounds like you are already feeling resentment. Either she needs to get her act together or it's time for you to move on. Just so you know, it is her fault. Medical conditions may explain, but they do not excuse being a shitty partner. She doesn't suddenly have amnesia. She knows what she is doing during these episodes. Even if she can't recognize this as unacceptable during her period. The fact that she hasn't spoken to a doctor, a therapist, or someone about how severely her periods affect her is on her. She is responsible for her actions. And for figuring out some way not to be taking it out on you more than a third of the month. 5 years is such a long time to be unhappy. Do you know what kind of birth control she takes? Her doctor can switch her to one that could help balance out her hormones. There's also BC that can eliminate the period altogether, or she can take it so she only gets one period every 3 months. It sounds like you haven't talking to her about this at all because you're scared of how you will look. This is not actually normal. Though, I think you're totally within your rights to ask her if she experiences her period the same way you do, and let her know that it hurts you when she treats you that way. It's up to her what to do with that info. But you aren't necessarily stuck like this. She could ask her doctor for help controlling the mood swings that come with her period. Or she could decide it's not worth it. But you have to let her know that you have a problem. There is supplements she can take that help stabilize her mood during that time. Talk to your pharmacist. Possible PMDD. You are not an intolerable toxic male. This is a real issue that needs resolving, and she needs to work to resolve. If that is possible. Because I imagine that it is not only you that notices these changes and her behavior during this time. This can affect your personal life, your friendships, your wife life, etc. It is not unreasonable of you to ask her to go to the doctor to see if this can be resolved. You have been together for 5 years, and it would be a shame to end because of this. Especially when her behavior is hormonal and not her fault. But it is her fault for not trying to do something about it. I have a different kind of period issue which affected sex life with myself and my partner. It was an added incentive to me to get this resolved as soon and as much as possible because, although I suffer the majority and worst of what happens to me, it also affects my partner, so I feel it is only reasonable to try and resolve as best as I can. Periods don't make women go like this. PMS does. If she's genuinely using her periods as an excuse to treat you like dirt. GTFO.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.